Good day. For families across the world, board games are very, very interesting. In fact, some of the board games are national passions. And amongst the board games, many are strategy games. And one of the most preeminent, if not the most preeminent strategy game in the world is chess. And if you follow chess, you will know that one of the greatest players of chess in the world, as a country, as a people, and as a civilization, are the Russians. The Russians have given us world chess champions, including Spassky, Karpov, Kasparov, and even Kremnik. They continue to be very powerful chess players. And if you know the game of chess, you will know that strategy is indeed at the heart of every single endeavor of man, be it business or military endeavors. So when you see a country like Russia defining itself in the way it approaches geopolitics, in a manner that shows resilience despite seemingly being in bad positions, you will know that it has a lot to do with the fact that they're a culture that knows that you coming at them with an aggressive attack doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win. Another country that has its own strategy board game called Go is China. In fact, the Go strategy board game is very popular in most of Asia. It's an Asian game and it's also a strategy game at which the Chinese are very, very good at. In that particular case, that game is all about encircling your opponent. China and Russia are playing a very powerful dance in geopolitics in modern day. And two of the strongest faces we always see in a layer below the leaders of those countries, like in Russia, Putin, we always see him in the newspapers and in the TV and in news items, and then Xi Jinping for the Chinese. There are two levels. There's a level below, and it's their foreign ministers. We all know of Sergei Lavrov. We may not know so much about Wang Yi, the foreign minister of China, but he has been also there for a long time. He's also a doyen of the foreign service. Recently, Wang Yi embarked on a European tour. I think that tour is also preparatory to a final EU summit between Beijing and the EU leadership that is supposed to take place later on this year. Wang Yi visited a number of countries, but he started his tour, I think, with the European Union, where he met with Kaja Kallas, the foreign head of the European Commission. There it was said that after the meeting and during the meeting, Kaja Kallas impressed upon Wang Yi on the reason why China should not be supporting Russia in this war. Well, Wang Yi did tell the Kaja Kallas that China has an interest in supporting Russia. They don't want Russia to lose because they know ultimately that if Russia loses, the Chinese nation will be the next target in the eyes of the American neocons. In Germany also, where he also visited, there the emphasis was on German competitiveness in the automotive industry. So the discussion was about rare earth metal. The Chinese clearly stated that they have to restrict what they consider to be dual use properties. Every country controls dual use items like rare earth metals. And even the Germans do too. They control anything that they feel that can be used both for the military and for the civilian use and applications. Wang Yi is a smooth operator. One of the things he does every year at the beginning of the year is that he meets with, he designates about 5 countries in Africa that he always visits. And in his visiting Europe, he also builds this relationship. And this has gone on for several years. Chinese diplomacy is one of the greatest assets that China has, and many people don't even know. But Chinese diplomacy doesn't mean that the Europeans are happy with the Chinese, especially There's a lady called Ursula von der Leyen. She is the head of the European Commission, and she is an unrelenting antagonist of the Russians. He believes that the Russians should be dealt with decisively. Well, whatever is a personal inclination or a personal drive, she is one of the champions of actions against Russia in this its war with Ukraine. And for her, the fact that China has helped the Russians to first bypass so many sanctions, bypass the sale of oil that the Europeans had shut out oil and gas, and the Chinese just said, thank you, we want that oil and gas, and they're buying it in huge quantities and huge volumes. The fact that 22,000 rounds of sanctions initiated by the European Union has not been able to affect the the Russians because they have a partner in the Chinese. The fact that financial systems and financial strangulation to try to cut the Russians off the global financial systems have been subverted by the Chinese through their sales and their financial infrastructure they are building between them and the Russians, where they use national currencies. In short, the fact that the Chinese are a backbone of Russian well-being in the course of this war is something that has frustrated Ursula von der Leyen to a point where, at the European Commission a few days ago, she blotted out and said that the Chinese should stop their support of the Russians. Good day and welcome to my channel, Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments regarding the ideas I expressed in this video, please put them in the comment section. Do well also to like and share this video. The talk of strategy and how the Chinese play their game is very evident now, as we're seeing that the Chinese have practically tied up every single thing that is of value in the world regarding minerals and regarding markets. They formed alliances to the point where they are now the largest trading partner of 120 countries in the world, and they are the ones who own almost all the mines and all the processing of every single ore, metal or otherwise in the world. Everywhere they've found a way to buy these mines, process the mines, build roads to the mines, and also now take whatever it is they are getting out of those mines and send them to China to process. They made sure that all the processing is done in China. This is coming at a time now where the Chinese strategy of building friends and relationships and soft power has just come very clear, full frontal in front of the new American president, Donald Trump. While the European Union is expressing its frustration with the Chinese, recently, Donald Trump came head on with the reality that the Chinese are way ahead of him in the game now, and they thwarted his attempt to tariff them to the tune of 140%. What did they do? They just brought out one trump card called the rare earth metals and the rare earth magnets. That value chain, very important and critical to weapon systems. Weapon systems are very important to Americans. You should know that. They're a war-fighting nation. They always have a war going. In 250 years of their independence, there's been only 15 years that America has not fought a war. They are always fighting wars. And for them, weapon systems are very important. And these days, weapon systems are jet fighters, missiles, interceptor missiles, warships, anything that needs magnet, and a lot of things need magnet. And the Chinese put an embargo, an export control on magnets, and said they weren't going to sell it to the Americans. That reality has come to humble Trump. Trump's big agenda of liberation from the world using tariffs has come and was ground to a halt, where he had to make a deal very fast too, because the American automotive industry was almost collapsing when they weren't getting In fact, Ford had closed one or two factories because they didn't have the magnets to do common things like power doors, some simple things that are very important and critical in a car. They just couldn't do it, and they didn't have the magnets to do it. And they had to reach out to Trump, and Trump was forced to make this deal. I'm not even talking about the need for those ones who produce interceptor missiles, Patriot missiles, all those missiles that was consumed very, very in large numbers in the Iran-Israel war of 12 days, the 12-day war, that they needed replacement for. So Trump had to. The Chinese have used diplomacy. They've used the simple strategy of go to solve these markets and these products and these substances and materials all over the world. I have mentioned before that while I was teaching or while I teach marketing, I always tell people about a strategy called flanking. The Chinese came to Africa, they didn't compete with, they usually don't compete with the big players. They came, they sold a phone called Techno. Techno is what we all know in Africa. They sell phones called item. They just sold in markets where that was underserved by Apple and all the big American brands. They sold up those markets and they formed critical mass. And now we see them with Xiaomi, we see them with Oppo, we see them with Viva and all these phones that are much, much, much better than even Apple. Apple may still be the preeminent phone in the world, but the Chinese are selling huge numbers of smartphones all over the world with these other brands. They are the ones who provide the whole world. Apart from the American market and the Chinese market, they provide the whole world with phones across planet Earth. So that is how they do their own business. And this has become a reality that has faced Donald Trump to the point where today Donald Trump has started to change his perception of Africa and his interactions with Africa. Today, Donald Trump had a meeting with 5 African presidents. It was very clear his intention in having that meeting. The presidents here being Mauritania, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Senegal, and Gabon. Trump wanted to have he had this summit with the full intention. It was clear in his statement there that it's supposed to be to enhance commercial relationship with these countries in Africa. That summit was supposed to have draw a lot of Africans, but unfortunately, it ended up having just only these 5 countries that I've just mentioned. So what was the purpose of this summit with Trump? Trump is trying to find access to rare earth metals. I had said that once you have anything that is of value, you're in trouble. The Americans will want you, the British will want you, and the French will want you. For the British, it always is oil because their biggest companies is Shell, BP, British Petroleum. Their main concern is oil. They have held on to that, and anywhere they have an interest, always has conflict. They have an interest in Iran, there will be conflict there. That's just how it is because they want to hold on to the oil. The British always want oil. For the Americans also, well, it's oil, especially Middle Eastern oil. They sold up that whole market for a large extent. But recently they were also moving into Kazakhstan. The thing with the American business thing is that American business is controlled by the financial services sector. It's where they put their money that you see growth. In recent times, they weren't putting their money in mining. They practically snubbed mining. They left mining to the Chinese, and that's why the Chinese picked up all the mines in the world and they take it back into China to clean it up. So we didn't see a situation where American private equity firms like BlackRock, those ones who have $10 billion, trillion dollars in assets under management, were not interested in it. Mining, in fact, in America was looked at as a very dirty, environmentally hazardous project. And to a large extent, there was no investment in the mines. And it was only the Chinese who had to muzzle their way, buy off a lot of mines from the Canadians and the Australians who were still in that mining space because the Australians have companies like BNP, huge conglomerates. And for that reason, they were always interested in mining. So the Canadians and the Australians were the only players. They just were no match for the Chinese. The Chinese just used diplomacy, win-win solutions, Belt and Road initiatives to get into local mines, give countries very good rates for bilateral loans, and PNP and all those other companies just couldn't compete with them, and they lost a lot of mines. The mining here I'm talking about is for things like bauxite, things, iron ore, in fact, gold, cobalt, any product that you find with the competitors to the Chinese were always the Canadians and the Australians. They just they were not up to par. But not in Australia though. Australia is a very big mining country. They sell a lot of iron to China. So China sold up everywhere. And now Trump is being nice because he's been forced to eat humble pie. And he's trying to make commercial relationship with Africa. It's a very difficult thing for Trump to be doing, we should know, because he has very low regard. His prior statements and his prior actions have shown that he had very low regard for African countries. But now, African countries still continue to hold the mines. Recently, a Chinese company tied up a very, very lucrative lithium ion mine in Mali. They bought it off a Canadian firm, either a Canadian or an Australian firm who just couldn't manage it anymore. It's one of the biggest lithium ion mines in the world. Senegal still controls a lot, especially they are still they are still unexplored. But the regulations and the methodologies of commercial interest from America may just be that challenge for them because truly mining is a long-term business. Mining it has so many regulations in America because America and most of the West had fallen under the mantra of sustainability, environmental degradation, and all those things that they always threw against the Chinese and told them that they were harming the environment while the Chinese were trying to do their mining. Now, those regulations is something they always have to fight overcome anytime they go into new mining projects. That's why there's almost no mines anymore in America. Almost all the mines closed because of so much litigations and so much challenges to any mining that is to be done in America. Let's not forget, America is one of the most resource-rich countries in the world. Any resource you are hearing now, rare earth metal, anything that you were hearing that the Chinese hold the supply chain of was actually started in America. And they still have mines in America, sometimes the largest mines in the world. But the whole commercial process called mining is almost not done again in America because of so many laws, environmental laws, especially anytime the Democrats ruled or were governed America at the federal level. They enforced this and made federal laws that made mining seem very unattractive. Now the Chinese have it, and the Chinese have the supply chains of so many valuable products all across the world. But it's not just the mining that really is their big strength. It's the fact that they built all the refining capacity for those mines. The processing of those mines are all done in China. So the Chinese, using their strategy, have not only encircled the Americans and the business fair, they are now disaggregating the American dollar in another fair, helping the whole process of the dollarization. One of the things you will know if you are a student of the Chinese model now is that they have started quietly in their own way to form currency swaps. Currency swaps where you trade any because they have the largest trading partner to 125 countries in the world. What they do now is that why don't you pay us in your local currency? So almost every country, a lot of countries have local currency deals, swap deals with the Chinese. So they don't need to use dollar in trading with. And for a lot of them, they need most of those services. A lot of people don't know that the largest pharmaceutical products come from China. You have a lot of critical needs that you buy from China, even something as simple as PPP. We found how common mask, the mask during COVID, China controlled the whole supply chain. And while every country was under the heel of COVID and suffering under COVID, China was the only one producing things like mask for the whole world. Zip, small things that everybody needs, every tailor needs, every seamstress needs, every person in the world needs in doing their business, because the Chinese also give you a lot of intermediate products, and the whole supply chain for anything you manufacture in any country always ends up in China. And because of that, things like their currency swaps are very attractive to countries. It helps them to save their dollar for buying things like petroleum, where and other essential needs where they must have to use the dollar. The Chinese are also making sure that the dollar is de-emphasized and creating new pathways through they have their own payment system that they are also promoting, that will bypass a payment system like the SWIFT system. Theirs is a CHIPS system. They are making sure that they get away from America as far as possible before America finally makes a full stand against China and attacks them. We know that is coming one day. There's nothing stopping it, either through a false flag operation or through bold-faced assault on international law. That conflict between China and America will come. It is one of the things that is happening now. America is doing its best to encircle China, form relationships in Philippines, form relationship in Japan, form relationship in South Korea. In Philippines, the Subic Bay bases that had been left for several years were recently returned back to America, and now they are filled up. They now have missiles pointing at China. They are getting ready for that day. They are encircling China, and they're just waiting for the trap to entrap China, so that China will probably make a move against Taiwan, and then America will throw its whole rat, do what is they've always wanted to do, which is to stop and disrupt the trade routes of the Chinese, at least the maritime trade routes. But the Chinese are not waiting. In their normal way of playing Go, they've already started a BRI project and have opened up markets all across Central Asia. Now they have rail lines coming going all the way to Europe, into Duisburg, into Germany, all across. Recently, they started a rail line going into Iran. They are trying to form land routes that will bypass all the possible harm that America is possibly going to do against them. The Chinese are getting prepared. And one of the things that you should also know is that they're a very patient lot. And it is that patience and that not showing their hand that is making a lot of people frustrated. They are quiet, they are not dramatic about anything. A lot is thrown at them. A lot of people are frustrated. Excuse me. A lot of people are frustrated at them, especially the policymakers in the West. Like I said, the Europeans, but the Chinese are now in such a powerful position that if you sanction them, they will sanction you. If you deny them access to your market, they will deny you access to their own market. They have made sure that the French, who came up with a bill against Chinese EVs, don't have ability to sell champagne and cognac in China. They have also made sure that the European Union, that came up with an act trying to ban the sale of medical equipment in EU, they too have made a law that has banned procurement of medical equipment by some of the companies from Europe in their own country. We should remember when Huawei was banned in Europe, the Chinese found a way to make sure that Ericsson never got a contract again in China. They are now very, very powerful, and if you hit them, they will hit you back. Well, while the Chinese are doing what they're doing, the Russians are just steadily going on with what they've been doing for the past 3 years, raining down brimstone and fire on the Ukrainians. This led to the frustration recently of Donald Trump when he was asked if he was going to give more weapons to the Ukrainians. He did say he will give weapons to the Ukrainians. He said what is happening now is that has made him very unhappy with what's going on with Putin. That Putin speaks nice, but Putin doesn't really deliver on anything. Yes, but that's simply because Putin has said that until the fundamental root causes of what started the war are addressed, they're not holding back. And to think that just yesterday, the Russians did something unprecedented. There were 740 projectiles shot into Ukraine. 740. 720 of those projectiles were drones, Grand 2 drones. Very effective these days. Very, very stealth. Very, very decisive and full of a much larger warhead. The rest were missiles, Caliber, hypersonic with a Kinjal. And Ukraine got the full brunt. Ukraine is under the heel of a Chinese squeezed, of a Russian strategy. Just like they play chess, they are squeezing the Ukrainians now, squeezing the NATO supporters of the Ukrainians and forcing the European supporters of Ukraine to look at the fact that it is China that is helping Russia to escape this, everything they've thrown at them. So they should blame Russia. They should blame China. It is China that is helping Russia to escape all the sanctions, everything they've done to hurt Russia. So they should blame China. But the Russians are the Russians, great chess players. And now they are going for the kill. You all know how chess ends. It ends when you capture the king. Zelensky is in a very bad place now. We don't know what he's going to do. He doesn't talk too much anymore. His tweets these days is just about, can somebody please sanction the Russians? Can somebody please sanction the Russians? He doesn't talk with all the zest and bolster and all the power he used to talk a long time, a few months ago, a few years ago, under the Biden administration. He is contemplating a future now and thinking of how he will handle this end game. Obviously, it's an end game. And we're very close to checkmate. This is where I end my show today. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and like and share. Thank you.